Okay, the question reads, let me just zoom in. Zamtech Manufacturing Limited produces metal components for the automotive industry. The company employs 50 production workers who operate in two 8-hour shifts. During February 2026, the following information was recorded. Total hours worked by all employees 6,400. Standard output expected per hour 2 units per worker. Actual production during the month 11,200 units. Maximum possible output at full capacity 14,400 units. So at full capacity, this is where you're working at 100%. Okay, this is the best you can produce when everyone's working at 100%. Okay, so the question asks number one, calculate the labor productivity ratio, the labor efficiency ratio, and the labor capacity utilization ratio. So we just need to remember what these things mean first. Okay, labor productivity ratio, how much output workers produce for each hour. Output per hour for each worker. Okay, that is the labor productivity ratio. Labor efficiency ratio, how efficient is our labor basically? How well workers performed compared with the expected or standard output. Okay. You want to see how efficient your workers are, how much they produced compared to what they're expected to produce. Okay. And then labor capacity utilization ratio. How much of the maximum possible production capacity was actually used? Okay, so we're going to tabulate each of these and we'll interpret their meanings because part B they're asking us to explain the meaning of the ratios and interpret what they are. So we start with the labor productivity ratio. This is the formula. The actual output, how much was produced, and the total labor hours. Because remember, we're finding out the output per hour for each worker. Okay. So the actual output, which is given in the question, 11,200 units. The total labor hours, 6,400 hours. Okay, this information is here. Total hours worked, 6,400. Actual production, 11,200. All right. So you're going to say 11,200 divided by 6,400. You're going to get 1.75 units per labor hour. Okay, this is how much is being produced per hour by the workers. Okay, and we can tell that they didn't do well because in our question, remember they've told us, was it here? Standard output expected per hour, 2 units. Now we are making 1.75. Okay, so we are below the standard. Any questions, colleagues, before we go to the labor efficiency ratio? It's in your portal. Here's the question, Mr. Twambo. Okay, labor efficiency ratio. Okay, actual output over standard output times 100. Okay, actual output over standard output. Okay, yes. So our actual output was 11,400, which was given in 11,200 in the question. Then our standard output. So remember, it said it's 2 units per work. Here they told us here the standard output expected per hour is 2 units. So if these workers worked for 6,400 hours, okay, and the standard output is 2 units per hour, how much should they have produced then? Okay, if they were actually making 2 units per hour and they worked 6,400 hours, what did we expect the number of units to be? Okay, so 6,400 times 2, they were supposed they were supposed to produce 12,800 units according to the standard. Okay, because the company expects each worker to produce 2 units each hour. So if they work for 6,400 hours, they should produce 12,800 units. But they only produced 11,200 units. Okay, way below expectations. So you say 11,200 divided by 12,800. Colleagues, let's also utilize our calculators to make sure that I did not make any errors. 11,200 divided by 12,800, 0.875. Are we all getting 0.875? Yes. So the labor efficiency ratio is 87.5%. We achieved only 87.5% of the expected standard output. Okay. So we were below standard. Okay. Yes, colleagues. Any questions? Mm. Yes, that's the expected units were supposed to produce, the standard output. Wait. Where's the 5,600 coming from? Hmm. It's 6,400. There's no 5,600 here. Yes, to find out what was expected to be produced within those hours, what the company expected, basically. Mhm. You say divide that 5,600 by 6,400. Oh, yeah, we're actually getting this. Yeah. Okay, so you are basing it on the hours versus the output. Okay, yes, you can use that. You can use that. Okay. Let's just type it out for our colleagues. So probably they can also use that also. So yes, you said what? Standard 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 hours. Standard hours needed. Uh-huh. Actual output. Actual output. Okay, divided by standard output per hour. Oh, mm-hmm. Divide. Okay. So basically, to produce these 11,200 units, the standard hour, what the number of hours they needed to take was 5,600 hours. This is how we interpret it here. Okay. Yes. Then you do, then what's the formula? Yes. So you said standard hours over actual hours, huh? Okay. Over actual hours. Okay. 5,600 divided by 6,400. Yes. So, colleagues, you can do it on an output basis or on an hourly basis. Okay. Yes. 0.875. Huh? Any questions, colleagues? 87.5%. Thank you, Mr. Twambo. Colleagues, let's give a hand for Mr. Twambo. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, sir. That's nice. Yes. Any questions, colleagues? Okay. So uh, the next one is which one? This one, the capitalization, capacity utilization. Actual output over maximum possible output times 100. Okay. So remember in the question here, they told us at full capacity, maximum possible output at full capacity, we can produce 14,400 units. Okay. But we only produced 11,200 units, which tells us we never worked at full capacity. So, actual output 11,200 over maximum possible output 14,400 units times 100. So 11,200 divided by 14,400, 0.778. Multiplied by 100, that is 77.78%, which is telling us that Zamtec used 77.78% of its maximum production capacity. Okay. They never used 100% of their maximum production capacity. They only used seven. We can just say round it off to 78%. Okay. The remaining 22%, okay, was there of the available capacity was not used. That's why we produced less. Any questions? Okay, so explain the meaning of each ratio and what it indicates about the workforce performance at Zamtec Manufacturing Limited. Okay, so we start with the labor productivity ratio. We saw it was 1.7. Okay, it was below standard here, 2 units per hour. We are on 1.7 units per hour. Okay, so in terms of workforce performance, if you are a boss at that company, the production manager, what would you say to your workforce if you found out they're producing less than they expected? Madam Sylvia, Mr. Twambo. Mhm. We are not doing fine, yes. In this case here, we're not being productive, right? Okay, it won't necessarily translate into losses. Maybe I can say less revenue since you might sell less than what you could have sold. But I wouldn't necessarily take it straight to losses. Yes. Labor efficiency ratio. Okay. Was supposed to, if we look at it in terms of output, was supposed to produce 12,800, but we only produced 11,200 units. Were we being efficient? Or in terms of hours, we were supposed to take 5,600 hours, but we took 6,400 hours. Were we being efficient? Colleagues, you are supposed to take 5,600 hours, you took 6,400 hours. Or you're supposed to produce 12,800 units for the hours you worked, but you only produce 11,200. Are we being efficient, Madam Luendo? Eh, We are commenting on the workforce performance here. So we're looking at the labor efficiency ratio to see how efficient we have been. Okay, remember efficiency, you are not wasting resources basically. Minimal waste of resources to get the most output. Now, in this case here, we were supposed to produce 12,800 units, but we produced 11,200 units. The other way we can also look at it, we were supposed to take 5,600 hours to produce those units, but we took 6,400 units to produce those. Are we being efficient? Okay. Then the labor capacity ratio, we only used what percentage? 78% of our full capacity. 20, we never, the other 22% of our capacity was wasted. So is it okay to use 78% of your full capacity, colleagues? If you are in a factory, okay. Is it okay just to use 20 years? Yes, to add more context, at full capacity, we're supposed to produce how many units? 14,400 units. But we only produced 11,200, which means we only use 78%. So that 22% is units wasted, colleagues. Those units would have been produced. So think of it as there's been some wastage of units. Okay. So for a company, it's best to always aim at 100% capacity. Okay. But 78 is kind of okay, but they can do better. Okay. They can do better.